In 2026, the traffic on Interstate 35 has taken on a new, permanent direction. Every lane is a slow-moving river of white rental trucks and packed trailers, all pointing north and east toward the state line. For 20 years, these same interchanges represented the primary destination for American migration. The sprawling concrete of Dallas and Austin served as the inbound arteries for an entire generation of job seekers and families. This sustained expansion was branded as the Texas Miracle, but the miracle relied on a cycle of constant, unsustainable growth that has finally reached its limit, revealing an economic structure that prioritized corporate expansion over local stability. The consequences of this collapse are landing on the multi-generational Texans who built the state's culture. They are now faced with the reality of abandoning their homeland just to maintain a basic standard of living. The maps of 2026 show a startling reversal of the traditional American dream. Texans are now seeking refuge in the very neighboring states they once viewed as economically stagnant. Across the northern border, Oklahoma City has become a primary relief valve. For a displaced working class, it offers a skyline where the cost of housing remains aligned with local wages, a balance that has vanished in Texas. The exodus continues even further into the heart of the country. Families are relocating to Arkansas and deep into the Rust Belt, trading the heat and the booming Texas economy for the financial breathing room found in cities like Detroit. This migration is a calculated move for survival. Fleeing families are trading the high-gloss imagery of the new Texas for the quiet, predictable affordability of the Midwest. The roots of this crisis are found in the policy halls of Austin. Over the last decade, state leadership made a series of legislative choices that fundamentally prioritized out-of-state capital over existing residents. The strategy was to create a zero tax haven to lure massive tech corporations and billionaire investors. They marketed the state as a blank slate for growth, offering unprecedented incentives to relocate corporate headquarters to the Hill Country. But the massive cost of building the infrastructure to support these giants didn't disappear. Because the corporations weren't paying, the state quietly shifted the tax burden onto local property owners, using rising home appraisals to fill the treasury. This tax shift was exacerbated by private equity firms, investment groups that use pooled capital to acquire large numbers of single-family homes. These firms bought up thousands of properties, driving up prices and effectively turning entire neighborhoods into high-priced rental stock. The result is a state that operates as a playground for the tech elite, entirely subsidized by a working class being priced out of the very neighborhoods they own. To understand why high earners are struggling, we must look at how local expenses have surged. The global oil shock has pushed Texas gas prices to $10 a gallon, an irony that hits hard in the nation's energy capital. This energy crisis is deepened by the tech giants lured here by those tax breaks. Massive AI data centers now draw such an enormous load from the grid, forcing utility providers to pass the cost of this extreme demand directly onto residential customers. This chart tracks a $100,000 annual salary as it is consumed by these specific Texas pressures. Notice how the income disappears when we subtract the highest property taxes, $10 fuel, and grid surcharges. The final depletion is the collapsed home insurance market. With providers leaving the state, remaining premiums consume the family budget. In 2026, a six-figure income no longer buys a middle-class life in Texas. The high cost of simply existing within the state's new corporate framework has pushed the functional poverty line to a level once considered wealthy. For those on the highways, there is a path forward, but for millions of others, leaving is no longer a choice. They are witnessing the Texas Miracle turn into a financial enclosure. The housing market has effectively frozen. Because new buyers cannot find or afford the home insurance required by lenders, the demand for residential property has vanished, causing values to crater in a matter of months. This graph illustrates the reality of negative equity. For millions of Texans, the market value of their home has dropped well below what they still owe the bank. They are underwater, owing the bank for a property that is worth less every day. Selling the house requires paying off that debt. To move, a family would have to produce $50,000 in cash just to settle the difference with the bank. Without that cash, they cannot close a sale, and they cannot leave. These families are no longer just residents of a high-cost state. They are financial hostages, held in place by a debt they cannot pay and a market that will not move. The psychological impact on these trapped households is profound. They are forced to live as spectators to their own displacement, watching their cities transform into corporate hubs that no longer have space for them. The tech towers of Austin dominate the skyline, projecting an image of success and innovation. But from the perspective of the neighborhoods below, those towers represent the very forces that have rendered local life unaffordable. Wall Street interests bought the Texas dream at a discount, stripped it of its local accessibility, and left the remaining residents to manage the fallout of an over-leveraged economy. There is a growing sense of isolation in these suburbs. Families stay behind a single lit window, surrounded by a state they can no longer afford to participate in, with no clear path across the border. The corporate boom promised a new era of prosperity, but it delivered a geographic trap. For the native Texan, the ultimate cost of this expansion was the loss of the ability to move freely within their own state.